Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to begin by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the elect. Alright, so the title of this video would be Broad is the way for destruction. Right? Broad is the way for destruction. Right? And honestly, I'll read, I'll get straight to it and just read the verse where this is coming from, where it's inspired by. So this is Matthew 7:13, right? And the title of it says "The Narrow and Wide Gates," right? But it reads. It says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many be there which go in thereat." Right? That broad is the way, meaning the way that leads to destruction is the road most traveled. Right? It's the easy thing to do. It's the thing that has the least amount of obstacles, right? It's the thing that, is more enticing than anything, it caters to your flesh, it caters to your flesh, right? And this also makes me think of, let me finish this out in a little while, that precept stays in my mind, right? But the next verse 14, it says, "Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, few there be that find it," right? Because again, it's the correct road, right? That's straight. That's the road that goes to the straight gate. That's the road less traveled, right? That's the road that is going to have you, divvying away from what you know, right? Your friends, family, so on and so forth, right? Your job, your daily life. Right, you're not going to be able to continue in your daily life as you would in the world, right? One, because your mindset is different, right? You don't think the same, you don't act the same, you won't go certain places, you won't do certain things with certain people anymore. People gonna think you changed, right? Because again, that's that road less traveled, but that's how you get the kingdom, right? Like when the apostles were inquiring of Yahushua, right, they were asking them, we have forsaken all, what are we going to get from this, right? But the point that I brought that out is what, like I said, they have forsaken all, so they gave up, whatever things that they needed to give up in order to follow after Yahushua, right? But living in this life, most are unwilling to do so, right? You are unwilling to lose relationships or stop doing, like I said, just stop doing certain things. And it could be something simple, right? Even just thinking back, on a couple of occasions, back in high school when the truth first was not the 100% truth, because we didn't know about GMS at the time in high school, but when it first came to our attention, in our school about, the Israelites and who the Hebrew Israelites were, and them being, your so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? There was a group of guys, that we knew in high school who were interested in it, right? They were interested in it, because it sounds, Jake likes to know something, so it sounds like something that's cool. But they, someone specifically, right? He decided that he couldn't do it solely based off the fact that he couldn't eat pork anymore. Now, of course, that's a very minuscule, a very easy thing to give up, a very minor thing, right? But again, that's that road less traveled, right? Jake being simple-minded, right? Oh, you simple ones, how long will you love simplicity, right? Jake having to give up something as small as eating, swine, pig, whatever you want to call it, it messed him up. Or another example, a former brother in the truth. If you go way back to around the first few camps that we did years ago, like 3 years ago, he began with us. But I remember, and it was one. This is one instance of one moment when I knew, and Salakia for ramping a little bit, but it's it's on the spirit. I guess you can call it a testimony. But we were having like a little outing one night, and he and I both have tattoos, right? Of course, in my former life, right, in the world. But I remember we was at this outing, and he kind of looked down at his tattoos, and he was like, it wouldn't be that bad if I finished it or something like that. And I just looked like no, you can't do that, But eventually, like I said, he's a former brother, so he eventually fell out, right? Not over tattoos per se, but these are just signs and things to show that even the small things that people have to give up in the world, they're not willing to do, ignorantly, because Yahweh Shemi Shah gave up everything. He gave up his life. He laid down his life, right? So it's like if that was a little ramble. But let me read this again. Matthew 7:13 says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few be there that find it." Right, and again, this makes me want to go to Second Esdras, the 7th chapter. Naturally makes me go to this because we'll read it, right? Second Esdras 7. My glasses are but I'll start verse 7. So Second Esdras 7:7 says, "The entrance thereof are," verse 6, Salakia, "there is also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field, and is full of all good things. The entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire Salakia on the right hand, and on the left a deep water, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once." Right? This is that straight gate, right? Straight meaning difficulty, right? This is that thing that people are going to have to endure, right? Because Yahweh told you, right? You have to endure to the end to be saved, right? There's nothing that you can do in this very moment to guarantee you being saved, right? Saved as in salvation, as in being beamed up in the chariots. There's nothing you can do right now. Why? Because the time isn't here yet. The MOTB hasn't been implemented. Things of that nature. You don't know what spirit the Lord can place you in. That's why we have to, call ourselves and be hopeful in that. Because, of course, we all, we as in, brothers and the sisters in this thing, we pray that Yahweh Shemi Shah have us in the correct spirit, in those times. Because, again, it's all up to the Lord's will. So all you can do is just pray that you're on the right side. Make your call into the election sure, right? Which, I think I got that precept pulled up, right? But make your call into the election sure how? By giving up certain things, by again, like the scripture say, you shall know them by their fruits. So the things that you're doing is going to show, it's going to give you a sign on who's who could you trust, who shouldn't you, so on and so forth, right? Only men of the Lord are going to be, spending every week, on the highways and byways, spending their days doing lessons and studying and things of that nature, following after, the 100% truth, taught to us by the elders and apostles of GMS on down, right? Only the true men of the Lord will do such things, right? continuing on, I'm gonna skip down to verse 10 because it, it kind of gets into the point about the wide entrances and the narrow, right? Verse 10 it says, "And I said, it is so, Lord, and he said to me, even so also is Israel's portion, because for their sakes I made the world, and when Adam transgressed my statutes, then was decreed that now is done. Then were the entrances of this world made narrow, full of sorrow and travail. They are but few and evil, full of perils and very painful." Right? So after Adam went off and took part in the rudiments of this world, the philosophies and things of this nature, right? The entrances were made narrow. Now, we have to prove ourselves, right? You have to go through hardships and things of that nature. Like it says, it's full, full of sorrow and travail, so on and so forth, right? But how it was supposed to be, right? Verse 12, it says, verse 13, it says, "For the entrances of the elder world were wide and short, and brought immortal fruit," right? So it was supposed to be, simple, right? When the Lord woke Adam up and gave him that breath of life, the spirit, the understanding, right? Everything was supposed to be perfect. Everything was supposed to be all good, right? But him via Eve, messed it all up, right? So continuing on, because going back to Matthew 7, right? Now I read verse 14 to get the point, right? Or I'll just read 13 again. Nothing wrong with that. Matthew 7:13 says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many be there which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few be there that find it." So that few be there that find it, right? I wanted to harp on that a little bit, right? Pursuant to Second Esdras chapter 8, right? Because like I said, it's not that many people. You'll know them by their fruits. You'll know them by what they do, right? So my point in saying that is that if you wanna be a part of that, the elect, the ones that get beamed up, saved out of the destruction, because destruction is coming to America, right? This place will be destroyed via nuclear missiles and Yahweh shot in the chariots, right? But if you want to be saved out of that, you gotta be a part of that number, man. But that number is very small, as we're about to see, right? Second Esdras 8, and really I read Second Esdras 9 first. Second Esdras 9 and start 14. It says, Then answered I and said, I have said before, and now do speak, and will speak it also hereafter, that there be many more of them which perish than of them which shall be saved. Like a wave is greater than a drop, man. So when you really put it into perspective, brothers have been to the beach, and if you haven't, you've seen videos, right? A wave compared to a drop, brother, I know brothers have seen, the little droppers, like the little, that, when you really think about it, it just shows you how serious this truth really is, and how blessed, and specifically blessed by Yahweh Shai that you have to be, that you have it. It's a gift, it's a gift that cannot be ignored. It's a gift that cannot be taken for granted, right? You have you had to be handpicked to understand this truth, which is really something that is hard to fathom, being a young Israelite in the world, got such a part of that number, right? I haven't gotten to the end. I'm not, we aren't guaranteed a spot on that chariot yet. But to know that we're tracking that path, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a humbling, honoring kind of thing. So you have to take it seriously, because like I said, it's only a few, a very select few, right? And from there we'll go to 2 Esdras 8:1, right? It says, and he answered me saying, the Most High have made this world for many, because anybody can be whatever they want to be in this world. Anybody can do whatever they want to do in this world. You want to be a sodomite, you can do that. You know, if you want to be a transformer, you can do that. If you want to be whatever the hell you want to be, you can be whoever you want to be. You know. But it says, but the world to come for few. The world to come, right? The kingdom, that's only for specific people, the elect, right? As far as ruling in the kingdom, it's only for specific people. That's for the elect. You know, the kingdom as a whole will be for Israel. You know, now the heathens will be there, but they'll be there to serve, right? That'll be their role, to serve, right? Continuing on, verse 2. It says, I will tell thee a similitude, Esdras, as when thou askest the earth, it shall say unto thee, that it giveth much more, whereof earthen vessels are made, but little dust that gold cometh of. Even so is the curse, even so is the course of this present world. There be many created, but few shall be saved, man. The Lord created us all, and that also makes me think of 2 Esdras 6 and 54, because the Lord created us all, right? But only a select few, 144,000, are going to be, chosen, are going to be, deemed worthy enough, to be saved out of that destruction, I quoted it. If you want to read it, of course it's the scripture, so it's all edifying, but I won't go to it. But this is, really a way to kind of close it out, right? Because again, you want to make sure you're not going down that easy route, that wide, that wide road, if you will, right? You want to go through that straight gate, the narrow path, right? You want to make sure you stay in your P's and Q's. You're not falling to the right, you're not falling into the right, into the fire, or the left, into the deep. You're staying on track. You're staying, where you need to be. Right. So this is 2 Peter 1 and 10. It says, wherefore the rather, brethren, give diligence. And that word diligence, let's go into this word diligence. So this word diligence, spoudazo. I think I'm saying that right in the Greek, spoudazo. It says to hasten, to haste, to exert oneself, endeavor, give diligence. To see with this word, to make haste. Let's look that up. It says speed. It says excessive speed or urgency of movement or action. Hurry, right? So, what do you want to do? It says, wherefore the brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. So do what? Be urgent about it. You gotta make your calling to your election sure. This isn't something that you can just teeter-tatter around with. And let me finish out the verse so I can get to another precept. Right? It says, for if you do these things, you shall never fall. Right? So it said what? You gotta make your calling to your election sure. So you gotta do this urgent, speedily. Right? And again, that makes me think of Romans. That was like 1 Corinthians, the 9th chapter, right? Verse 24. It It says, "Know ye not that they which run in the race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that you may obtain." Because we're all in the race. Now, it's it's important that you understand that it's not about who's the fastest, who learns the fastest, who can break down the most scriptures, who can memorize the most scriptures, whatever. It's not about that, right? Because the scriptures tell you that it's not to the swift. This race is a race of longevity. This is a marathon. This isn't a sprint, right? This is a marathon, right? Because brothers have gotten burnt out, which I guess in that case they're not brothers anymore, right? But people have been in this truth. They thought that they were just their life was gonna change and they were just gonna be so great and everything was gonna work out perfectly exactly how no, and then they fell out, right? They may have been tests or other things in front of them, and they've fallen out because what they saw it as a sprint, right? They tried to go real fast and they weren't rooted, right? And Yahushua tells you about those who aren't rooted, who didn't build you didn't build your house on a strong foundation, right? But again, 1 Corinthians 9:24, know ye not that they which run in the race run all, but one receiveth the prize. So run that you may obtain. So yeah, you gotta run. You gotta do what you can. Like I said, make your call into the election sure. Right? Make your call into the election sure. How are you doing this stuff? How are you doing this? Right? For example, this is 2 Corinthians 13:5. It says, "Examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves how that Hamashiach Yahushua is in you, except ye be reprobates." Right? So you got to examine yourself. What are you doing? What kind of fruits are you producing? Like I mentioned earlier, you shall know them by their fruits. So if their fruits are, or if that tree is unfruitful, if they aren't producing good fruit, or if they're producing bad, and not enough going into that. Now I gotta read it. Let's go there. It's the book of Matthew 7, which if I'm not mistaken, I was already in 7. That's the spirit, man. Honestly, I just start from the top, where I started at from the beginning, Matthew 13. So it's Matthew 7:13. It says, "Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few be there that find it. Beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits." Right, here's the point. "Do men gather the grapes of thorns and figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Wherefore, by their fruits ye shall know them." Man. So you're gonna know them by their fruits. You're not gonna get good fruit from a bad tree. You're not gonna get bad fruit from a good tree. So my point bringing that out was, like I said, examine yourselves in 2 Corinthians 13:5. Examine yourself. What kind of fruit are you producing? You gotta keep yourself in check. This is Galatians 6:4. Right? It says, "But let every man prove his own work, and then shall he have rejoicing in himself alone and not in another." Right? You gotta prove your own work. Prove yourselves. Right? Like it kind of said that in 2 Corinthians. Right? Prove your own selves. Right? The scriptures also tell you to do what? You have to work out your own salvation. You can't always be worried about the next man or what the next man doing. Of course we uplift brothers, we pray for brothers. You want to congregate with brothers, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you gotta work out your own salvation. You gotta work out, your like I said, your salvation. You gotta make sure your chances is as high as possible. How do you do that? Through the scriptures. All through the scriptures. So I'm gonna read this last verse, this last scripture, and then I end it. As it is currently 3:50 a.m. So this is the book of Lamentations, chapter 3 and verse 40. Let us search and try our ways and turn again to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. Right, so that, Lord willing, is edifying. I'm going to end by giving all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone, and shalom to the hopefully